Hello everybody, my name is Longer James, and today we're going to be playing Pathfinder's Adventures, Rise of the Rune Lords. So I'm going to be showing you guys what it's like just starting out the game. So I'm playing on the phone, and I'm going to be creating new characters. In the phone version of this game, you only start out with the rogue and the cleric, which are actually probably the best characters in the game in my opinion. The only character that I've seen that's relatively near as good is the druid. I'm not going to be using her though, since I said that we're going to be only playing with what you get as in starting out in the game. This game is free to play, by the way, so it's pretty good if you want to check it out, download it. If you're into Dungeons and Dragons or other type of board games, this might be for you. So, without further ado, let's get into some action here. So the rogue is a dex-based character. She's good at disabling traps, and there's barriers in the game, which are essentially like pitfalls, treasure chests that are locked, and other things. And then the cleric, as you can imagine, is good at healing. She has, let me show you her stats real quick. She has a lot of wisdom. So she's also has the divine trait, which means she's good at casting spells and of the holy or religious variety. Alright. Now I'm going to be going about this game kind of more of like a teaching manner, so you guys know how to play it, because a lot of the reviews I've seen for this game are this game is too confusing or it's too hard and I don't know how to play it. So I'm hopefully gonna make it so that you guys are more interested in playing the game, because there's nothing more frustrating about a game when you don't know what you're doing and you can't play the game yourself. So let's go into it. Sandpoint. Well, I've been in worse places. On the upside, easy money can often be made in these backwater holes. Beware. Places like this provide easy prey to those with dark intent. You there! You look equipped and abled? I can't get a supply shipment past the waterfront these days. That brigand Jibbery Visky and his thugs are robbing honest folks in the streets. Our incompetent sheriff can't seem to do a thing about it. Assuming you have the coin, happy to do business with you. If I get to bloody my daggers, all the better. It is Serena's will that this criminal is prevented from doing more harm. Sorry, I know I'm not the best voice actor. So, each scenario, which is kind of like a level, if you will, has its own specific difficulty or challenge to it. So this scenario's difficulty is if a monster's power causes you to recharge a card. So recharging cards is any cards in your hand will be put into your deck. So then this says if the monster makes you recharge a card, then you draw the equal number of cards that you recharge. So I'll just go into the game version. So every time you go into a scenario, there's a preview of who the villain is. So the villain is, you can see this Jibbery Visky. He has in the top left corner of his card, he has like a little goblin looking thing with a crown. That means he's the main villain that we're after. So we have to go, our job is to go and kill or take down the villain. and I'm not gonna go into his the specifics of his card. So right now, so these guys are henchmen's. Henchmen's are cards that have the little goblin card with a tiny crown above its head, and they're usually like slightly less red. And when you beat them, usually you can close the area immediately, and I'll tell you more about closing areas in a bit. So there's 4 areas. You can have a party between 1 and 6. The game recommends 3 or 4 characters per party. Now, when you have different number of parties, different number of characters in your party, the number of areas like these change. So the formula is pretty much however many characters you have plus 2. So if I have 2 characters in my party, there's going to be 4 area nodes. If I have 3 characters in my party, that's 3 plus 2, so there's going to be 5 areas to explore, and so on. Or if I only had 1 character, then there'd only be 3 areas to explore. This game, I like to play it by separating your characters into whatever they specialize in. So whenever you try to close an area, there's you can see where it says when closing right underneath my little face cam. It says I need a wisdom or survival check of 6. That means when I beat the henchman or beat the villain that's here, and there's other areas for the villain to run to that I have not closed yet, I am going to close this area, and when I'm closing it, I have to roll a 6 or a higher, and I have a 12-sided die that I get to roll to close this area. Similar to this one says I need to succeed at a dexterity or stealth check of 6 or higher, and my rogue also has a 12-sided die, but I also have a +2 dex modifier with stealth, so because this one says or stealth, I can use my stealth one instead of my dex roll, and I can get a +2 bonus for that. They also have effects whenever you permanently close them, and as well as at this location, they might have passive effects like this one says. You may discard 2 cards to evade an encounter. I don't really care about that with the rogue, because the rogue has a power that lets you evade any encounter you wish. Abilities are pretty important in this game. The sneak attack, it says if you are the only character at this location, you can recharge a card to get an extra 6-sided die, or discard a card to get 2 6-sided die in your combat checks, which means whenever you're fighting a monster or enemy. And then the cleric can use a hero and cast control bonus to fighting enemies. So without further ado, let's jump in. Right there you can choose which characters go in order. They take their turns. It doesn't seem like that does anything in particular. So yeah, I always just leave that alone. So in the top right, you can see a bar right here. Those blessings are basically like how many turns you have left, which is that number's there. You start with 30. It can go down to 0. When it goes down to 0, you actually still play for turn 0. And then if you don't win on that last turn, then you lose. I'm playing softcore mode. There's a hardcore mode where there's permanent death. When your character dies, you lose them and all the items that they have. I'm not playing hardcore right now. So let's see this. So character dies though when you have your deck for them cannot refill their hand. So right now I have a hand of 5. So if I had 4 cards in my deck and none in my hand, my character would die. So let's see. So right now this blue card is an ally card. Allies help you out. So this card if I recharge it, which that means I'm putting it from my hand and back into my deck, I can get a four-sided die from my combat decks, which I roll this either using dexterity or in my field. So whenever you fail to acquire an ally, typically they get banished, and what banished means is that they don't go back in the exploring draw pile deck, which you can see in the above left corner. There's a 9. Each pile only has 10 cards for the different areas. Blessings are really useful. You can help out your teammates who are in different areas. I usually don't like using the blessings unless I really need to when I'm on the road. But I don't mind using them when I'm on my cleric because she can heal herself. And I'll show you that in a bit. So the cleric can use her healing ability to reveal any card that has the divine trait, and that's really good for exploring. About half of the items you find are one-time use only items, which means they'll get banished after you use it. Anything like potions or the holy candle are good examples of what will get banished. So in this game, you take damage based on the difference of the combat check. The check to defeat an enemy. Some enemies don't require you to have combat checks. They might ask you to like do a charisma or something that you might have to like talk out them, talk the enemy and back them. So I don't want to lose all the cards in my hand because I only rolled a 5, so that means he's doing 5 damage to me because his combat check is 10. So instead of taking 5 damage, which is losing all 3 of cards in my hand, I'm going to bury, which means that I'm going to... it's slightly different from banishing. When you bury a card, it goes out of play for this scenario. So that means I will no longer have it for the scenario, but when I'm done with the scenario, I can have it back in my deck. So I'm going to bury that card so I take only 1 damage, technically, instead of 3. And I'm actually going to throw away the shield just because I don't want it in my hand, because I want to draw other cards from my deck. So now I have a weapon that's more useful than the shield. Elven shield, chain shirt. That's actually pretty good for starting out. It's better than this leather armor. Any card that has the if proficient with something armors and you can recharge it, I prefer those because typically you don't want to have armors in your hand unless you know you're gonna fight something. So being able to recharge it and put it back in your deck when you don't need it is a good thing. Because if not, if you don't want cards in your hands, you would typically have to throw them away. I find the Clatrops really useless because the rogue can typically just overload monsters anyways. So banishing to evade doesn't really help all that much. So about half the weapons you can choose to discard them for additional dice that help you. But I'm going to just use a blessing instead because the weapon is important to keep using it to get more benefits during combats. So this guy asks you to do a wisdom throw, or else his difficulty will increase. I'm just going to let the difficulty increase because I don't want to use any of my blessings or anything to fight him. Like I said before, the abilities in this game are very important. I'm going to throw away this burger guy so that I can get 2 dice instead of 1. Again, like I said before, it's good to split up your characters into the areas, little area nodes that they're good at. So that way the rogue can do its own thing, which is using its backstab ability, because it can't use that when it's in it area at the same time another character's in it. Let's see. You can also check your what's inside the deck. You don't know what order they're in, but this gives you a good idea of like the probability of finding what's in there, like any specific given thing. If I'm looking for good things, which are called boons in this game, there's 2 allies and there's 1 blessing that I can draw from here, but there's also 2 enemies and 1 trap, which is that yellow thing. And then the green question mark is the villain or henchman, and you don't know which one it is. So we're at turn 24. I'm going to cure myself. Roll the 4, so that means I'm going to get +1 with 5 cards. I'm going to try to recharge that, which will put it back in my hand if I succeed, and it does. So I get to keep that card instead of discarding it. And I have to fight this. I'm pretty comfortable with 85% or higher. Whenever it is a combat or acquiring check, anytime it's for closing an area, I prefer 90+%, because I've had some pretty bad rolls with 85% still, where I would have like 3 or 5 dice and I would somehow get like all 3 or 5 dice rolled natural ones. Which, whenever I say natural next to a roll, that is without their bonus modifiers. Alright, this guy is one of the henchmen. You can tell by the little crown and the slightly darker red color than the normal enemies. So we're going to encounter him. He wants us to recharge a card. And let's go over that potion. So I'm going to do everything I can to beat this guy, because I want to close this area as much as possible. Or as likely as possible. So that way, when I am fighting the main villain, he cannot come back here and run here. As well as I don't want to have to explore 6 more times, because it will take up my turns. And you only get 30 turns. Which is important, because if you play with more characters, by the way, in your party, you still only get 30 turns to close the areas. So even if you play with a party of 6, and you have to explore 8 areas, you still only get 30 turns to do that. So, and each area will still only have 10 cards in each deck, so that'll be like 80 cards to explore, which will be pretty hard to do with 6 people. So, moving on. Some locations have end of turn actions. So here it says, when I end my turn, you can bury a card from my hand, and then I can recharge a card from my discard pile. But well, actually, yeah, let's bury these thieves too. So the reason for burying cards intentionally would be to thin out your deck. And thinning your deck is kind of important in some cases, where you have cards that you don't want or don't need, and you don't want to keep like redrawing them because they're bad cards and they're not going to do anything. But the important thing about getting getting as many new cards as you possibly can when you're starting out is that you can sell them for gold. It's not the fastest way to get gold in this game. I'll show you a better way to get gold in this game later. So there's a heavy crossbow. I really want that, but I don't see a feasible way I can get it. So I'm just gonna throw it away. What's in my deck? Healing stuff. I want blessings. I really want blessings. So I'm just gonna throw away all this other stuff. I don't care about all the other stuff. Blessings are the most useful thing in this game because it allows you to help your allies even though they're far away from you. So let me see what's in the farmhouse. The farmhouse has 3 enemies, 1 trap, 1 weapon I can find, 3 items, 1 ally, and some henchman or villain. Reading this game is pretty important. It gives you a lot of information, everything you need to know about closing an area. We're going to go to the farmhouse, and we're going to see what we can do in here. Let's see. Trap lockbox. So I'm going to use my crowbar to get an extra disabled dice, and well, most chests in this game are pretty good because they'll give you pretty decent items. That one didn't give me too great of an item, but that's okay. Some weapons also have other effects, like you can recharge some or something. It's pretty good. Most throwing weapons like daggers or throwing axes, they let you discard them while you're using another weapon to get additional die, which is pretty good in case you have like multiple weapons in your hand. And also when you're just fighting. Most weapons have recharge abilities where you can put them back in your deck while you're fighting to make them better. Some will also just tell you to straight up just throw them away though. Alright, here's another henchman, so if we beat him, we'll be able to go to the next area. Okay. 90% is pretty good for fighting henchmen to close areas. Close this and 93 is pretty good for closing areas, so let's go ahead and take that. Now, there's only 3 cards left in my cleric deck, and that's pretty dangerous because if she dies, I won't be able to use her for the rest of this scenario. A lot of weapons, after the base weapons that you get, will ask you if your characters are not proficient with weapons, that they will have a difficulty increase. So it's typically good to only use them if you have that proficiency. So I'm going to get that because in the future it'll be a really strong weapon, but for now I don't recommend using weapons that have that requirement. Oh, sorry about that message. It's my school stuff. So the good thing about the cloak is that it can heal itself, but it uses up blessing cards. Well, it doesn't have to be blessing cards. It could be any magic or item or card that has the divine trait. So So I'm going to explore using a blessing. Yeah, I don't really care about that card, so I'm just gonna go whatever without using blessings. So regular enemies have that orangish border, and the little icon in the top left doesn't have a crown above its head. Okay. I need to be worried about any cards left in my discard. Holy Water for a heal. And I rolled a natural 3 with the bonus of 1, so I get 4 cards. And I want to explore this and put away my ally and fight this guy. I have to put a card at the top of my deck. I did not heal my other weapon, so I don't really want to throw away the only one I have right now. So if I can beat this guy, I will. But I think I'll probably have to go for 70% chances not to beat him. And on my turn, now let's use my cards. And you're allowed to use spells when it's not your character's turn, so I'm going to go ahead and use my turn. The cleric can heal other people when it's not the cleric's turn. Can heal other characters as long as they're in the same area. Currently, because this game likes to have your characters spread out to close all the locations, it's actually better to do it this way. We'll go ahead and explore them. I don't really care about spells. Well, the thing about acquiring a bunch of allies, even though you don't really need them, is still pretty good, is because they can just be used to explore locations faster. So that's what I'm going to do here. Even though I don't particularly care about this card, I'm going to get it so that I can discard it so I can explore the location again. Normally you would discard a blessing to do that, which I ended up doing to acquire this card. So it's basically like I get to explore for free since I got it. Sorry for that beeping noise. The power went out and we have like a emergency power supply thing in our house, and I guess it's dying or something. I don't know. So I have a pretty bad chance of fighting this guy and beating him, but if I take a lot of damage, I'm gonna basically throw away my whole hand anyways, and let's just see what comes. The Tome of Knowledge is a pretty good book. There's another card that another item that's pretty good with going with it, which gives you an extra dice to acquiring any boon, and but it requires a high knowledge roll. So unless you have a mage, which in the phone edition of the game, the mobile room, you can't get. You pay money. So I'm just gonna leave this quickly for now because I don't have a very good way of getting it. And the phone's a blessing, but even then that's still not a good chance of getting it. And the kicker only has one card left in its deck, and that's pretty scary, so I'm gonna do that. And I'm gonna explore the area. Well, before I do that, I want to see if my teammate can help me out here. And my teammate does not have any blessing, so that means my teammate cannot help me out. Well, let's do it anyways. Getting ambushed. Do not want to get ambushed, so let's do that. And let's just explore. Thieves' tools. I don't care about thieves' tools right here. Yeah, I don't want to use my cards because I only have 4 cards left in my deck. We found the villain. That's pretty good. So the area that my cleric is at is still open. So we're going to need to close it so the villain here can't run away to it. I can tell you are new here, so I'll give you a piece of advice for free. Get out. Leave Sandpoint behind you, and no one needs to get hurt. I'll make this off at once. You must want me to enjoy this fight, so be it. So, whenever you fight the villain, there's one adventure area that you don't have to fight any villains, so I'll show you guys that one later in a tip video. So I need to close this area so the villain doesn't run to me. So I have to summon and defeat this bandit. I need to let this thing go away. Guess I just have to wait for him to go away. Man, I really don't have a good chance of killing this guy, but let's just do this. Hold on. Hopefully my rogue can kill this guy, because my cleric has very little cards left. So, he only has a combat that can kind of kill him. So let's go ahead and fight him. But who knows, I might roll ones. Oh, I did it, so we won. And because that was the last location that the villain was in, or could go to, that means we cornered him and beat him. I yield! Ain't being paid enough to get killed over Vinder's Hall. Aw, I was just starting to have fun. Very well, I'll bite. Who's feeling your pockets? Telling you won't help me to live to a ripe old age. Better just take me to Sheriff Helmlock. Cheers. Oh, the power's back on in my house. Cool. So I just got 0 gold for that, but that's because I already beat this scenario. I think you get like 100 or 150 gold when you start out new. So you can get gold for beating the game. You can also get new cards when you start out. Each character. Well, some areas you'll get different stuff. For this first area, you get random items. Sorry, I have to keep moving my face cam around. There's like this, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's like a menu for the video recording. Go away. Let me see if I can. No, I don't know. Make it go away. So that was our first adventure. We're going to. You can see that there's only a set number of items you're allowed to have. So the items that I have in my stash are from my older characters. I'm not going to use them just yet, just because I want you guys to see how kind of naturally works out. So I'm going to get rid of all these potions just because they're banishable cards that don't really help me. Once your characters have the correct amount of cards, you can leave, and then it will take you to this guy who will buy your cards for money. But if they have the little hammer symbol underneath it, that means they're like the default cards, so you won't get any money for those ones. But you're only allowed to have 10 cards inside your stash at any given time. What I do to help kind of increase my storage, I make new parties of 6, and then I just store cards into them, and then throw away like all their garbage cards, and just keep the really, really good ones. Or situational cards that I might need for a different adventure, and then I'll pull my cards from those parties, put it back in your stash, because your stash is shared between multiple party or accounts, so you can share cards between them, and that's how I use them as storage. There's an unclaimed section of items, and those are like rewards you get. As I'll show you over here. So you go to rewards, you can see that this reward that will show up inside your unclaimed section. And I'll go to the shop for you guys, and I'll show you guys the treasure chests that you can buy with your in-game gold. So you can buy 1 for 500 each, or you can buy 6 for 2,500 or 2,500, which means you'll basically get 1 for free. It's pretty good. So I mentioned before that the game is free to play. So the way that they can make money as a business, or if you get really lucky, you can buy further expansions and adventures. There's 2 adventures you can get for gold. Each one of them has 5 scenarios each, so that means 5 levels. They have 3 different difficulties, easy, medium, and hard. They come with new weapons, new spells, and new everythings actually. Like you can see everything coming with ally armors, potions, etc., etc. For people who love customizable stuff, you can buy dice. All the favorite dice actually, so throw attacks and stuff like that. You can also get dice skins for gold plus a really service bundle packs. You can buy anything you some of the items in general, I still don't have this one. I really want this card because it's more powerful. It gives you a guaranteed +5 bonus modifier as well as 1 roll 8 dice. That's pretty good for the druid. As well as the cleric, because the cleric is proficient in melee. If it has a punching melee attack that has that item, it's pretty strong. But 6,600 gold's a lot for this game. Even with the gold farming trick I found out just a few days ago. So you can buy new characters. I don't know if using these alternate characters lets you have 2 of the same characters in a party. I'm pretty sure it doesn't, but I haven't tried it. They're only 500 gold. They do have different stats than their original counterparts, which may or not be good. These 2 in particular, I don't think they're good. Like the cleric loses its main attribute of wisdom in exchange for, I think it gets more charisma or something. And that's not really useful because the cleric uses wisdom so often for whenever it tries to recharge its spells for healing or other guidance spells. It needs wisdom a lot more. And then the rogue is supposed to have 8 strength, but instead here it gets 8 wisdom. And don't really see the point in giving wisdom to the rogue. It uses perception, but usually strength is more needed because some treasure chests need to use your strength to bust them open, and sometimes I don't always have my thieves tools to pop them open. So strength is also good for gathering weapons as well, and I like to get items more. So you can see some of the characters cost money. There's a bunch of selling bundles too. You can buy 4 more characters for gold. I forget how much they are. I think it's like 2,000 or 4,000 gold, which isn't that bad considering that these guys each cost 5,000 apiece. But the good thing about the goblins is that, I'll show you right here, their powers. They get an additional innate trick just for being a goblin. So this guy gets, actually it's a girl, sorry. You can add 1 4 dice when you're getting a check against Bane or allies, as long as it's not a combat check. So that's pretty good. The other goblins have different things, like the rogue has a stealing card, which allows you to get any item, weapon, or armor with a 1 4 dice. So it's basically acquiring any boon except for allies with a bonus. Some of them have stuff like the wizard has stuff specific to them instead of generally just getting items. They'll do electric Anything that has the electric crate, you can add the electric. So that's usually for combat. Or getting spells that have the electric crate. Let's see what else I can show here. So if you just want a big bundle in this game, the Rise of the Reload bundle is the basic bundle that you get. It's $15. It's basically like if you go on Steam and you buy it. I'm pretty sure you can connect your Steam account and this game account. Oops, sorry, I went back to the store. I'm gonna go back to the main menu and show you how you guys can connect it. If you go to the main menu, you can see you can connect with osmodi.net. So you can just use so if you're going to be buying it on Steam, which would probably actually be better because then it also gives you all the characters and the cards that come with those new areas. Because if you look in your collection over here, I only have the first 3 areas, which are the base cards and 1 and 2. And then if you want the other ones to be unlocked automatically, you would have to buy those adventures. But I actually have some of the cards from the other adventures because I bought the token chest, so you can unlock cards that way instead of just buying the other stuff. So what's really, really good about buying treasure chests is that you can get the new spells and weapons without having to go there. So this spell is really, really strong for the cleric and the druid because both of them have the divine trait. And once you roll 3 12 dice, that's really, really strong. Or 3 8 dice, unless it's if it's undead. So then you get 3 12 dice. The only problem with some of these cards in the later adventures is that they require higher recharge checks, which this one says a divine check of 16 to recharge it, as opposed to cards from Adventure 1, 2, or the base one, only have recharges of 10. It's a lot easier to do. Your characters are limited by their stats, and you can only increase their stats if you go up in the adventures, and because I only got new adventures, I can't increase their stats more. But yeah, that's the first adventure of Pathfinder's Adventures, Rise of Reload, so let me know if you guys want to see more of this. I recently started getting into a lot of Dungeons and Dragons video gameplay. There's a YouTube video called Critical Role. Check out the videos, they're pretty good. There are a bunch of voice actors. They're really funny. It's a good video of these kind of games and I get you into it. Check it out. Please like and subscribe if you guys want more content. Thank you and have a good day. Bye.